Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of Practical Marketing Tips for Small Law Firms. I'm your host, Cara Pryor, president of James Publishing, co-founder of our Marketing Amplifier program. As you likely know, I spend most of my time really strategizing with attorneys on how to improve their marketing ROI, their return on their marketing investment. So like we always do, let's get right down to business. We have a wonderful guest today. I'm really excited to welcome Nathan Reynolds from Scorpion. Hi,
How you
Nathan.
doing?
Thanks so much for
Hey,
joining us.
thank you.
Great to have you. So a little bit about Nathan before we dive in. He is a vice president of sales at Scorpion with almost a decade of experience helping hundreds of attorneys across the country. Nathan connects with firms to help develop creative marketing solutions that allow them to retain more cases, generate more revenue, and of course, grow their practice. So when he's not working, Nathan enjoys cooking and playing with his two French bulldogs, Clementine and Piper. I love that.
You might even see them bark during this
Oh,
video since we're all working from home still.
that's the beauty of the working from home, right? The
All right.
pets, the babies, yeah, they all make appearances. Our office dog here is actually named Clementine, so I love that.
Cute.
That's great, yeah. So today we're going to cover 5 ways to maximize your legal marketing strategy with Nathan. So to give you a kind of heads up into what we'll be covering, we'll start with kind of emerging trends and proven strategies for successful legal marketing, move into generating awareness and branding for your firm, talk about creating interest and some consideration, as well as overcoming doubt and providing assurance. And then of course, the sort of ever so important converting more prospects into clients. So starting at the top of that list, Nathan, tell us a little bit about some of these trends and really proven strategies for successful legal marketing right now. We'd love to hear about that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the big elephant in the room obviously is COVID, right? 2020 has been probably the most interesting year of my life. And I never thought I'd see anything like this. And I don't think, I mean, some people have seen some crazy things go on, but COVID has definitely thrown a wrench into everything. So we talk about proven strategies for successful law firm marketing. You really have to kind of go with the times. What's going on? And during COVID, I saw a lot of interesting things where a lot of practices decided, you know, whether it was criminal, family, personal injury, they decided, let's pump the brakes on some things. Let's not spend any money. And on criminal, for example, no one's getting arrested, so why should I advertise? Family law, everyone's stuck at home, so they're not going to get a divorce right now. They can't go anywhere. So what do we do? So when we're looking at trends, you want to start looking at trends in the market. And like I had mentioned, during the pandemic, a lot of people decided to kind of pump the brakes on what they were doing. And we found, and we'll provide some of these assets for you after this that you can take a look at, were the firms that kind of stayed true to their advertising saw a huge benefit to the cases that they were bringing in. Because if you think about it, the supply was lower at the time, but then the demand for an attorney was much higher. So as a lot of these firms kind of started pulling back, the firms that kind of held true to what they were doing consistently prior to COVID, may that be social media, paid advertising on the internet, local SEO and things like that, they were the ones now that were getting first look at the cases that were coming out of the market. So some practical things, and still apply now because I'm in California and I'm still stuck at home. So you can leverage things like social media to your advantage, you know, amongst this pandemic. Even shooting a video on your smartphone. I have tons of clients that you can get that real interaction with your firm and make you feel like you're the person that your potential client actually wants to talk to. So shooting a quick, you know, 2 to 3 minute video about some topics around the things that you're seeing in your particular market on a particular case that you're trying to go after and how you can help with that particular need is a great way to make sure that you can still leverage getting your name out there and keeping it, you know, at the forefront of people's minds, even amongst a pandemic like we're in. So leveraging social media is something that I would definitely recommend. Leveraging video, obviously, during this time to take advantage of putting a voice to the face, right? Like kind of like what we're doing now, to let people know that you're here to help.
Yeah, you know, I really love that sort of low-hanging fruit approach. What can we do now? What can we do? We might have a little bit more time on our hands. We might be at home a little bit more. What can we do today? And I hear so often too, I've been wanting to get into social media. I've been wanting to kind of produce videos. I don't know how to do it. Where do I
Yeah.
start? What do I talk about? Is it providing answers to common questions that you hear from prospects? Is it, how do you kind of build that trust? So maybe you can talk a little bit about the content specifically. What do you kind of recommend they create and they share?
Sure. I mean, keep it real. Understand that the people that you're going after didn't go to law school, right? Like you did. So when you, just like we're having a conversation now, pull out your phone. Everyone has a smartphone. I mean, I have mine right here, and shoot a quick video and test it out and post it to your social media, and maybe about a common concern that people had. As an example, bond hearings were huge in a couple areas right when COVID hit for a lot of my criminal defense attorneys. People were getting arrested and people were getting put in jail, and their loved ones didn't want them to sit in jail at the beginning of a pandemic because what was going to happen, right? They're going into a jail that's potentially a cesspool for COVID-19, that they could contract this illness that we knew nothing about. So sitting there and answering questions like, hey, if your loved one's been arrested, here's the steps that you can take. Here's how myself as a provider can help you and walk you through this process so that your loved one isn't in danger, if you will, right? So I think common questions that people might have, think about, when someone comes into your office and they have a particular need about a case, whether it's family law, it's a divorce case, a custody matter, a personal injury case, an estate planning case, whatever your expertise is, think back to those questions that those people have that you might have thought, well, I thought that question would be answered and it would be easy. Like, why don't you know this kind of thing? But they don't know. So take that and do a quick little video. Hey, common concerns when people are filing for bankruptcy. What do people think? What are the misconceptions of filing bankruptcy? And put that out there. And then you get that in front of someone that has that particular need. And now you made them feel comfortable so that when they actually need to take that process or that next step, you're the one that they want to reach out to.
Yeah, I think that those are some great examples. And it really is astonishing how the pandemic has made video chatting and, sort of casual video the commonplace, right? You see some of
Sure.
our, nation's top officials broadcasting from their homes. So, I don't think it needs to be this high production value thing, right? I think that
Yeah.
sometimes that's where folks, kind of clam up like, well, I don't have,
My hair's
high
not done.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and those are just all kind of excuses that just don't really hold true anymore. It's very much it's so much more accepted and just widely appreciated. So I think
Sure.
that's a spot on recommendation.
Yeah, and one more thing that I want to touch on when it comes to emerging trends, right? Some of you might have heard or are starting to hear about Google's local service ads. And this is yet again Google's way to kind of shift things around and make everyone be on their toes because they like to do it. And what local service ads are doing for the legal industry now, as they did for the home services industry almost 2 years ago, is providing another way for your potential clients to interact with you online, particularly on Google. And these are starting to roll out for many practice areas across the country. And it's truly the firms that adopt these new strategies first that are going to get first look at the cases that could come from this. Now, Google's smart. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They wouldn't roll this out to yet another vertical in their space, which is now the legal vertical, if it didn't work in the other ones that they had already rolled it out in. So if you're not familiar with local service ads, again, we'll provide some more content. We can talk about it. But it's another area for people to find you online on Google prior to them doing even more research. It's kind of Google putting their stamp of guarantee on you as a law firm to say, hey, here's someone in your area that can handle this particular need. You should reach out to them. They can help you out. So that's something else that's now coming that, again, you could take advantage of as trends keep moving in this more digital direction.
Good stuff. Thanks. So moving on to this sort of generating awareness and branding for your firm. Maybe you can
Yeah.
touch on that.
The thing that we often forget is that we're trying to get in front of people who have an issue, and these people are scared, depending on the case, right? Whether it's an auto accident case, they're confused about a divorce, they don't know the next steps in a bankruptcy, they've been arrested for something that they never thought would ever happen to them. Creating awareness and branding your firm, you always want to figure out who is your ideal client, who's your target. And I talked about this in our the previous message that we had created, that it's so important to figure out who's the person that's looking for you. And an example of this, and some people might know him, some people might not. I work with a firm by the name of Brian Wilson, who's out of Fort Worth, Texas. Everyone in the legal realm kind of might know him by his crazy video and names, the Texas Law Hawk. He's crazy. He does these crazy videos online about, what he does and how he does it. But he has a target audience that other potential criminal defense attorneys in the Fort Worth market might not have. But what Brian's done is he has honed in on who's his target, the younger college or post-college student that might have been arrested for a DUI, because they're going to be attracted to his kind of messaging. And if you don't know who he is, look it up, you'll see it and you'll go, okay, that makes sense. But if you're someone who's going after baby boomers for estate planning, right? They're not going to gravitate towards some kind of messaging like Brian's created, which isn't a bad thing. That's not his target audience. So when you're thinking about building awareness for your firm, you always want to take a step back and you want to consider who's your ideal client. What are they doing on a daily basis? Put yourself in their shoes and think, okay, if I was this person, what would I be doing? What kind of messaging would appeal to me so that I seem appealing to them, right?
So that's interesting. So once attorneys have sort of identified or found these micro niches, what can they do to kind of create messaging or content or email campaigns, whatever it might be, kind of around that audience or around that niche? How can they kind of, start to really target those more specific, demographic areas?
Yeah, I mean, you think about what are they doing on a day-to-day basis. You might need to do some research, and that's where experts can come into play who have done analysis on your market to tell you, okay, here's what people from the age range of 35 to 55 are doing on their smartphone, because there's so much tracking out there today that you can actually identify what these people are doing and how they're kind of living their life. What kind of websites are they viewing? What kind of content are they craving? Do they want social media content? Do they want YouTube content? Do they want to sit there and read through paragraphs of a case brief because they want to understand that you're the firm that takes the expertise to a whole new level because you're so well versed in that area of law, right? So it can be challenging, I'm not going to lie. You have to find out who, again, your target audience is and what they might potentially be doing. So if you're going after lower age, 21 to 35 who've been recently arrested for their first offense DUI, you might consider setting up a Facebook campaign with someone holding a beer in their hand behind the driver's wheel. And you might put an ad that, hey, were you arrested for your first DUI? It's scary. Don't worry, we have the answers for you. Click here. Or are you going after the single mother who has a median household income of 100,000 plus that is looking to get custody of her children, and her messaging is going to look a lot different because she might visit different websites, right? What kind of things is she doing on a daily basis? What kind of content is going to make her feel comfortable? Like you're the individual that is going to take the time to listen to her about her particular case in a more sensitive situation.
Yeah, that's great advice. It's interesting too. I was talking to an attorney just a couple days ago about really, as you say, kind of identifying their target, their ideal client, right? And it's an exercise, a fairly simple exercise that she had never really done. But, a question that she had for me was, okay, so I've identified this target. I know who to go after. If they reach out to me or they inquire in some way, maybe they even download, some sort of lead magnet or content that I've created, and they don't hire me, I don't do anything else at that point. Those folks were she didn't have any sort of system, any kind of like lead tracking follow-up system. And, her and I started talking about, well, it's important to have a comprehensive campaign, nurturing campaign that continues to kind of drip out this educational material, answering those questions of this, of this target audience that you're referring to, and adding value. It's all about sort of showcasing expertise, adding value, really, establishing the firm as the authority, kind of conveying their caring, showing they're ready to help until they are ready to retain you. Perhaps they're when they first inquire, they may just be looking to get some of their common questions answered, right? They may be meeting with multiple attorneys. So if you're the one who can provide that on-point content, provide that educational, high-value information that puts them at ease, kind of explains what to expect, what will happen next, that certainly, goes a long way to setting that firm apart.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And, I'm going to plug something that has nothing to do with me or Scorpion. I started reading this book called Building a Story Brand. And I don't know if you've read it, and I don't know if anyone that's listening has read it, but if you haven't, look it up. It's called Building a Story Brand. And I think anyone, whether you own a business, you have a law firm, you're in sales, you're in marketing, anyone listening to this, you should read that book and consider the 7 steps that they have you take to building your story brand. And one of the biggest things that you mentioned, Kara, is the person that they're going after, that person's the hero in the story, in all of this, right? No matter what the need is that they have. So your potential client needs to feel like they're the hero. You're the guide. So anything that you can think of that you can provide, and this will play into the last part of this, which is converting new clients, potential clients into cases, being that guide for them, walking alongside them rather than kind of pointing the finger at them and saying, I'm the expert, you need to kind of listen to me. So I would really encourage anyone, check that out. It's been a great read for me, and I just love it. So I keep telling everyone about it.
That is a great read. Yeah, I also recommend that. And another piece of this is also it helps you kind of further qualify your prospective clients, almost doing some de-selling in a way, right? So you don't want to be everything to everyone. You know who you can help, who you can truly help. So, a lot of this content also educates the prospect so that they can understand, oh, you know what, maybe this actually isn't the best fit. Maybe I don't have the best case. Maybe this isn't a good fit. So, that will, of course, free up a lot of the attorney's time or the law firm's time in general, kind of pursuing kind of unqualified leads. That can always be a drag. So.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. So moving along, creating interest and consideration. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So once you've identified who that target audience is and you've really honed in on what your brand and your messaging is, you got to get the word out there. You got to get it out there somehow. Traditionally back in the day, you had the yellow pages, right? You put your ad in the yellow pages, or maybe you did some print media and you handed it out to people, or I've gone as far as seeing firms that still, have coasters, with their firm branding on it. All of those are still applicable today. Again, if your target audience is engaging in that way, right? So if you have a younger audience that craves, for me, I'm in my 30s and I love YouTube now instead of reading something on the internet. So, even last night, I was searching on YouTube for recipes because I do all the cooking in my family. And instead of reading a recipe, I like watching someone cook. So for me, in my age range, we're seeing a lot more people gravitate towards that kind of media, right? They want to watch videos. They want to have someone tell them what they need to hear during that particular time. So how do you do that, right? Again, you've identified your target audience. You know what your branding, your messaging is. Is it paid advertising? You know, Google pay-per-click and now Google local service ads. That might be the play for you depending on who your target audience is. Is it more social media content? Is it blogging? Is it, you know, some PR pieces that you're sending out? Is it a newsletter? Is it that you're in a small town and you're part of the community, so you are getting the word out there that you support local businesses and your brand is executed that way because, again, your target audience gravitates more towards that. So there could be a mix, you know, really depending on who your target audience is. And one example of this is this. Let's say you're handling high net worth divorce cases, but you live and your firm is actually in a median household income of, let's say, 50,000. That's the median household income. But maybe 30 minutes away, there's a zip code or a couple zip codes where the median household income is 120,000 plus. Well, that's your target audience. That's where they're at. You know, they're in this area outside of your local market. So you might need to run advertising in that zip code to let people know, hey, I'm a divorce attorney, because the likelihood that that person in that area who's going to have a divorce need has more money, has a more complex issue than the person in your maybe local market that doesn't have the same resources or capital, you know, income. Your target audience is a little bit outside where you live. So it's looking at things like that. And you might reach them through a paid marketing campaign. You might reach them through a social media campaign awareness of, you know, the complex issues that arise from having, you know, a divorce with children. You know, so you might put that out there and you might select your target audience of an age range in that demographic and in that geographic area. So that's all about creating interest, because you found who your target audience is. Now you need to get it in front of people, because people aren't just gravitating towards you trying to find it. You need to get it in front of them.
Good. I like that. I like that. And I think that kind of, you know, segues into this overcoming doubt and providing assurance. So let's
Yeah.
move into that piece, because I think that's important too.
The biggest thing that any firm can do is pay attention to your online reputation. And what I mean by reputation, your Google reviews, your Yelp reviews. What kind of presence are you putting out there before someone picks up the phone and calls you? Another thing that's really, really helping firms kind of overcome that doubt, again, is video. And I ask firms this all the time, and I had this conversation even this morning before our conversation, Kara, was I had a firm and I asked them, I said, what's your closing percentage once you get someone in the office? You got them, they're sitting in front of you, you're having a conversation about their case. What's your typical closing percentage? And usually every attorney knows, you know, no matter what, they're like, oh, 80, 90%. If I get them in the seat, they're in the office, I'm going to close them. They're going to work with me, right? That's half the battle, is getting them in the office. Well, where's the correlation there? It's that face-to-face interaction. So we're seeing that if you can provide video on your website and kind of hint at that face-to-face kind of interaction with people, they're more likely to call you than the person that doesn't have any video, doesn't have any reviews. They just have words on a page that says, I can help you with your case. Give me a call. You're providing more value, more substance to this person. You're making this potential client feel that you're accessible, because now they're talking to you almost face to face. Now they want to pick up the phone and they want to give you a call. So I would really focus on reviews, getting more positive reviews. And it can be hard. You know, certain practice areas, even on criminal defense, for example, your high value felony or murder charges, they're probably not going to write a review about you. But the lower level cases, for the person that you helped that just made a silly mistake, they're more than likely willing to do a positive review about you online, for sure.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Reviews just become more and more and more relevant, more important. What do you say to attorneys? Because I hear this often, attorneys who say, well, you know, I'm nervous to get negative reviews, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to kind of blast my past client list, or, send an email, send a text message, because I'm worried about the negative reviews that will then come with, the positive ones. What do you say to that?
It's a risk, you know. I had, again, the same thing came up today. Gentleman that was charged with a more serious crime for a firm that I'm now working with in Michigan, 5 years later, decided to post some negative review about the firm online for no reason. You're gonna run that risk, but here's the good news. A good defense is a good offense in this scenario. Getting more positive reviews will actually drown out that negative review. And then, quite frankly, anytime I go look at reviews for restaurants, right? My wife and I want to go to a new place to eat. I look at a restaurant review. If it's 5 out of 5 perfect, I'm a little skeptical. I'm thinking to myself, did you guys pay these people to say that this food is really that good? So I also don't want to discourage people. If you do get a negative review, we're all human. People make mistakes. People are going to say things and how they feel, and that's okay. But then getting more positive reviews on top of that can just help you even that much more.
Yeah.
So if you're scared, don't be scared. I know that Scorpion is, and I know there's some other companies out there. We put some stops in place when we help firms get more positive reviews, where we put kind of a 2-step review process for anyone that we're requesting a review from. So things like that, look into it, find out, do they review you first and then go put a positive review about you online? Consider doing that, if you're a little kind of weary about posting, getting reviews on you online.
Smart. Yeah, I definitely agree. And in the end, to your point, the firm who has 100 reviews, maybe 4 out of 5 stars, has more credibility than the firm with 2 or 3, even 2 or 3 reviews, even if they're 5-star, right? Like you said, it has to be genuine, it has to be authentic, and the sheer volume of reviews really does speak loudly. So reviews,
Totally agree.
continue to be more important. Okay, so let's move on to this, the big kind of last topic: converting more prospects into clients. It's sort of the gold standard, the gold star of attorney marketing, right? How do we get more of these qualified prospects that then will convert into high quality, high paying clients? So how about you start us off there?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that firms make is they think that if they've never ventured into any type of advertising to get new clients, and they've lived off of, let's say, referrals for the longest time, they start to treat these people that are calling them for the first time that have no idea who they are as a referred client. And you can't do that. And let me explain why. Someone that's been referred to you, they already have talked to someone that's had a great experience. They know that you're going to do a good job based on that person referring you. So if you take that for granted when someone calls you who doesn't know you, and you just say, spit out a number, I call in and I say, I've been charged with a crime. Can you help me? And you say, yeah, it's $5,000 and I can help you. And you don't take the time to listen to them. I'm someone who's shopping around because I don't know who you are. I might have seen some good reviews. You put out some good content, and I feel nice and warm and fuzzy. And I want to call you because you're the first guy or gal or firm that I decide to reach out to. And I pick up the phone and you don't want to give me the time of day to talk to me about my particular need. It tends to turn people off, right? So treating these people as brand new individuals that have no idea who you are and take the time to nurture them and guide them is it's something that I always recommend to people, right? That are just starting out in advertising to get new clients.
And Nathan, it always sort of shocks me how many firms just sort of ignore the whole lead follow-up process,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's okay, kind of like we mentioned earlier, a prospective client reaches out, they're interested in learning more, they don't sign right away, and then in many cases they're ignored. So how can you kind of fill that communication gap? How can you, undoubtedly there is a group, could be a rather large group of visitors to your site who
Hmm.
they're just not ready to book a consult or give you a call, right? They
Yep.
need more time, they need more information. And most of the attorney websites that I look at, that's all they're offering is a free consult or a basic contact inquiry form. There's no lead magnet. There's no downloadable ebook that, in exchange for the prospect's contact info, they would be delivered a branded, educational, high value booklet. And then, you'd be able to kind of nurture them along and keep them in the loop. And of course, convey that you're ready to help. So
Yep.
I'm always shocked by, because that can always be the lowest hanging fruit, is we're not necessarily talking about increasing your lead volume, right? If you're already getting traffic, you're already getting leads, what can we do to convert more of those?
Absolutely. And it's just taking the time. And yes, it's hard sometimes to, you know, everyone wants to get paid, but sometimes you got to do the extra, put in the little extra work to make sure that those people come back. Because I also tell people that plays into your reputation, right? If you get a bad reputation in the market, let's say you're in a smaller market and every person that's called you, let's say you get a negative review. Oh, I called this firm and they said they wouldn't even talk to me unless I came in and paid them $150 for a consultation. And then you get a ton of people saying that, like, this guy wouldn't even hear me out and I just had some questions. It kind of, diminishes, who you are in your community, right? So go the little bit of an extra mile. Another thing that I see people do is they let their calls go to voicemail, which is fine. You're in court and you don't have the time to answer the phone. Call these people back. Call them back as soon as possible. Because if you don't, these people are going down the list and they're going to find someone else that's going to answer that question. So if you don't have the ability to answer your phone and you don't have the ability to hire a receptionist, look at getting either an after hours phone service for when you don't have the time to answer. Send it to a reputable phone service that can answer the phone and let them know that they'll get back to you, right? Or things now, people like to text. So put chat on your website. Find a good, reputable company that offers chat that you can put on your website for someone that wants to engage right away. I can't tell you how many times with the firms that I work with across the country where they've converted a new client from a chat lead that was in the middle of the night, someone who was up because they were scared, they didn't know what to do, they start doing research, they get to this website that communicates that they can actually get help, and they start chatting, and now that's a lead, right? That now the attorney's job is to call them and then keep leading them down, that process of I can help you, right? So they've engaged, and maybe again, like you said, Carrie, they don't need help now, but they'll probably need help in the future if they're going through this process.
I think you bring up a great point too about that follow-up. Much of this can be automated, right? You find
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't all need to be manual, right? So you find, some services, certainly kind of a virtual receptionist service, a live chat service, and also all of the kind of nurturing that we're talking about, right? We're not talking about manually sending out all of these emails individually. That's not sustainable, right? You would never be able
Yeah.
to kind of stay on top of that. But if you do dedicate a chunk of time to, writing a series of 10, 12, 15 emails, loading them into, some sort of auto drip campaign, that's, those are campaigns that you can use for years and years and years, maybe with some slight tweaks, but for the most
Yep.
part, that's evergreen content. You can use it, kind of create it once, use it forever, and much of it can be automated. So the items that we're talking about, we don't want to put, we know how busy you are, right? I mean, I'm sure, Nathan, you hear it all the time. There's just there's no time for, your time is always taken with other pressing matters, right? So
Yeah.
there's so much that you can do, so much you can do, today or in the next couple of days to really kind of set yourself up for success and really automate and, kind of remove that burden from you or and others in your firm, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we kind of went through everything that we had planned. Nathan, let people know how they can contact you or where they can learn more.
Yeah. So everything we talked about today, for the firms that find that this is definitely something that is a burden to them and their time is much more valuable doing things that aren't involved in marketing, Scorpion handles all of this for the firms that we partner with. So you can reach out to myself. My email is pretty simple, Nathan, Nathan, at Scorpion, Scorpion.co. That's Nathan at scorpion.co. Or you can go to our website and just give us a call and, say you heard about us on, James Publishing and Nathan and Kara. We're talking about, all these practical tips on marketing and we'd love to just walk you through it. Again, if we're a fit to help you out, I'd love to help. If not, I'm here to point you in the right direction to make sure that you can spend your time in the courtroom and not in front of your computer doing advertising and marketing.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Nathan. Lots of great stuff today. I really appreciate you joining us.
Of
And
course.
yeah, thanks. Until next time, join us for our next session of practical marketing tips for small law firms. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too.